All right. You're welcome to this section, and in this section, we'll be I will be talking on DevOps basic keywords, right? And before I actually explain and go further in this section, please, in this class, please, I will want you to support me, by subscribing to the channel and then share it with your friends because this class is very, very important. And like I said before, I will teach you like a baby, and and you will get every knowledge you have. And this course is beginner friendly. It is for those who have zero knowledge about DevOps or anything called DevOps, right? So, and secondly, I have actually taken a whole lot of my time, a whole lot of the hours to actually compile notes for this course. So I will put the link to the notes below the video in the description so that you all can follow me along as I am doing it. So today, what's up, everybody? How are you all feeling? How are you doing? Hope you are doing good. Today is another day, and so let's go. All right. So there are some DevOps basic keywords right there, and the reason why I had to include this in this course is because there are some words that you often hear me say that I will say frequently, and you might be wondering what these words are, right? So it is just for you not to not to stay behind so that you understand what I'm saying. And these keywords, they are words that you will say as a DevOps engineer. They are words that you will say every time. In as much as you know, you are you are on a task, or you are in a team, or whichever, or wherever you find yourself, probably among peers, and you are discussing, tech topics, right? These are some of the words that that you come across and you also say. All right, so let's go into it. And before I start, right, as I'm explaining, I will give you illustrations so that it can actually give a clear picture, in your mind. So as I'm explaining it, you have a clear picture of what it is. So I will give an illustration to it so that you understand it properly. Now, the first is sorry, let me quickly make this. I'm coming. All right. So that's all right. So here we go. All right. So the first is operating system. We call it OS. We popularly call it OS, operating system. So an operating system is the main software that controls the computer. You understand? It is the main software that controls the computer, and it helps you to talk to the hardware. It helps you to talk to hardware like keyboard, like the mouse, like the disk. And an operating system can be like the Windows, right? Without an operating system, the computer is just a metal or a plastic thing. The computer is just there. It's more like you removing the heart from the body. When you remove the heart from the body, then it is nothing. You understand? So the operating system is the main software that controls the computer. It is the heart of the computer. And we have different operating system like Windows, like the one I'm using. I have Windows. We have Mac OS. We have Linux. Even Android is an operating system, right? And we can think of operating system as more like a school principal, you know, a school principal, the principal of a school. And in a school, right, we have students, we have teachers as well. You understand? So if this if the students want to actually, talk, if the student want to like talk to the principal, or if the student want to talk to someone in higher authority, they will not talk to the building, they will not talk to the wall, right? They will talk to the principal. You understand? So, and the student in this sense is more like application. You understand? So the student in this sense is more like application, and then the building, the building is more like the hardware. So if the students will have to communicate directly to the to the school principal. So in this sense, we have software or applications that communicate directly to the operating system so that it gets feedback or results. All right. So the next one is Linux, right? Linux is a type of operating system that mostly used on what, on the server or in DevOps. I mean, Linux is sorry, Linux is a type of operating system mostly used in servers and in DevOps. We use them in servers and in DevOps as well. So it is more like, okay, let me just give you an illustration. It is more like, let's take for example, um, we have two type of cars, right? We have the automatic and then the manual. There are some cars that use the automatic gear, and there are some cars that use the manual gear, right? I'm trying to give a good illustration so you understand. So the more more control. But if Windows is like automatic gear, then Linux is like the manual gear. You understand? So where we have more control, but you must know what you are doing, right? You must know what you are doing, and then, like in example, I stated under the operating system, I stated the type of operating system we have, where we have Windows, we have macOS, we have Linux as well. So majorly, DevOps engineer use Linux operating system majorly to to interact and do their day-to-day activities. They use Linux command. They interact very well with Linux. So as a DevOps engineer, you must actually know, you must be well, you must be well familiar with Linux. And we can have different example, like we have Ubuntu, we have macOS, we have Debian, we have some like Amazon Linux, right? These are some types of um, Linux we have. All right, so let's go. The next one is server. Server is more like a computer, right? Server is a computer that stays online all the time to serve other computers. You understand? Server is more like a computer that stays online to serve other computer. For example, if if okay, let me use this example. So let's take for example, we have a kitchen, right? If you want to order a kitchen, I mean, if you want to order a food, if you want to order a food from your phone, for example, let's take for example, your phone is the customer, right? Your phone is the customer. If you want to order a food from a place, they will prepare the food from a kitchen, from a restaurant kitchen. You understand? So the order, you ordering the food is the request. You understand? So the kitchen must be open every time before you order any food. If the kitchen is not open, you will not be able to order any food. You understand what I'm saying? Even if you order the food, you will not be getting any response before, because the kitchen is not open. You understand? So the kitchen will prepare it. The kitchen will actually prepare the food and then send the food back to you. So the kitchen in this sense is the server. You understand? So the kitchen in this sense is the server. Your phone is like the customer, right? You use it to order a food, and then in the kitchen they prepare the food for you, and then you go back. I mean, they send it back. They send it back. So they sending it back is the response you are getting. So the server is, a computer that stays online every time, and then it serves other computer. You understand? So if the computer that stays online is not online, if it's offline, then you'll be getting no response. You'll be getting nothing, right? All right. So the next one is client. Client. A client is any device or app or applications, right, that request something from a server. You understand? The app is any device, or any device or application, any software or application that requests something from the server. For example, I gave an example about the phone, right? So the phone is a client. The phone here I gave an example in this server. So here the phone is a client that is requesting something from the server. So it's requesting something from the kitchen. So that is um, that is the that is what the client means. So it is any device or application that requests something from the server. So for example, if the client doesn't request anything, right, the kitchen will not do anything. You understand? If the customer doesn't request for any food, the kitchen will not prepare anything. So the client must actually send a request for the kitchen to actually send the food. So that's the response. Next one, all right. Moving on. Next one is the back end. Back end. So back end is a part of an application users don't see the back end, and then it handles the logic, the data, the communication, the storage, everything. It handles it. So let's take for example, let me give an example of a showroom. A showroom. For, is it uh should I use showroom or restaurant? Okay, let me just use an example of a showroom, right? So in a showroom, now let's take for example the showroom. In the showroom, they produce furnitures, right? They produce chair, they produce couch, they produce top quality beds, and all these things that you see in the showroom and that they display outside, right? But behind that showroom, there are people working to produce that bed. There are people working to produce that chair. There are people working to actually produce all those nice things you see outside. So behind it, they have carpenter, they have people that paint the stuffs, they have people that handle all these things. So behind that showroom, it might look rough, it might look not well organized, right? But that is where the main work is coming from, that you all can see it outside. You understand? So that is back end. So back end is part of application that users don't see. It handles the logic, it handles the data, it handles the communication, and in this sense, right, DevOps mostly work with back end. DevOps mostly, as a DevOps engineer, you work mostly with back end to ensure that you know everything runs smoothly. So take for example, if the backend doesn't work, for example, if the place where they make the couch or the place where they make the beds or the furniture, they are not functioning. You see that there will be nothing to show in the showroom. There will be nothing to show, right? So that is that is it about backend, right? So the next one is front end. So when we say front end, right? Front end is what users see and then they interact with it. You see, I give an example of the showroom, right? The showroom is the front end. What you see, like whenever you want to buy a couch or a chair, you see like, wow, this one is nice. The display is for people to see outside, like, wow, this is nice, this is beautiful. You test it out, you can sit down on some, you can lie down on the bed, and you know that is the front end. That is what user sees. But behind the showroom are people that make it, are people that they work on it every time, they put their energy to it to show that yes, this is beautiful. So that's the back end. So the front end is the face. It is the face of you know the application. The front end is the face of the application, what you see online, what you interact with as a user. That is the front end. All right, so we'll move next to database. Database, right? Database is more like, okay, let me just read it here first. A database is where data is stored and managed. You know, database is where data is stored and managed. So it is, for example, if you have like an application and it requires you to log in you know, you'll be having, before you log in, you put your data. Or for example, let me give you this example, right? If you are just interacting with, if you are just using an application for the first time, it will require you to, like, register to interact with it, right? So you registering, you will put your name, your email, your password, and other things, right? You interact with it. All those things you are putting, your name, your username, whichever, they are stored in a database of that app. They are stored in the database of that application. So database is more like, a cabinet or a store. Let me put it that way. No, let me just use a cabinet. You understand? A cabinet where you store your things. You store your things. You store them, in order, so that you will not be making mistakes. So DevOps ensures that, it doesn't crash. As a DevOps engineer, you need to ensure that the database doesn't crash or lose any file. You have to ensure that, the database is stored properly, so that, the user's data will not leak out or will not crash suddenly. All right. So the next one, moving forward, is cloud. When we say cloud, I know some of you look up, you look at the you look at the sky. All right. So when we say cloud, right, cloud means, when you use, cloud means using computers over the internet instead of your own laptop. That is it. It is not the cloud we see in the sky. No, it is, it means when you use other computers in the internet instead of your own laptop. Now, let me give you illustrations. All right. So, for example, which illustration can I give? Okay. For example, you are in a place where there is no light. You understand? You are in a place where there is no electricity at all, where they are not generating electricity. But, there is a service in that area that rents electricity to you. You understand? Like, what you just do is, if you want to use an electricity, you will pay, you will rent the electricity to use it for that main time. You understand? So in that case, you have two options. You have two options. Now, the first option is, you can either buy a generator that will generate the electricity for you, right? So that you will not have to rent any electricity or pay for any electricity to power your house or your home. You understand? Or you can decide not to buy the electricity and then you can decide not to buy the generator and then rent the electricity that will power your house. So you have two options. But now, the first option, let me explain to you. But you buying the generator, if you're going to buy the generator, that's the first option, right? If you're going to buy the generator, you will be responsible for the maintenance. You're responsible to buy fuel. You're responsible to maintain it. If it's spoiled, right, you will do it. You will repair it. You'll be the one to carry it from one place to another and, maintain it so that you have constant electricity. But you renting electricity in another company that is in that area, that is renting out electricity, you don't have any business with maintaining any electricity. Your own is just to pay, and then they will give you electricity. So they are the one that will maintain the electricity. They will make sure that, electricity is just being supplied to you. So they will so it will actually keep you going through the process of stressing yourself to carry generator around, to screw it if it spoils, to take it from one place to another, to repair it, to buy petrol or fuel or diesel, whichever way, or gas. You understand? So it will save you the stress. So instead, you can choose to just pay and rent the electricity, so that all you just know that once you've paid, you will have electricity in your home. Bam, and that's it. So instead of buying the generator, you rent electricity. So cloud is a renting server. You understand? Cloud is a renting server. You see the server we I explained here, that a computer that stays online every time. You understand? So you are renting that computer, you know, to actually use it for yourself. You know, you rent it to actually use it for your own self. All right? Just a minute. All right. So now we have different cloud provider. Like we have different cloud provider that provide servers, that provide services to users or tech companies. For example, we have the AWS, we have the Azure, we have the GCP. That's Google Cloud and platform. So these are just would I say the popular ones. We have many others, right? Like we have Oracle, we have IBM, and so on. But these are just the popular ones. So as I know you are still kind of confused, but as we are going deep down in this course, right, you'll begin to understand this thing properly. All right. The next one is an IP address. An IP address is what? Is a unique address of a computer. Look at it. An IP address is a unique address of a computer on a network. On a network. So, for example, an IP address is like your home address, right? It's like your home address. If someone is going to send you a mail, or someone is going to send you, uh, let me say, a letter, or you want to ship something, you have to put in your home address, so that whatever you want to ship will come exactly to your home address. So if you don't know the address, right, you can't be able to send anything, you can't be able to ship anything. So that is an IP address. All right. The next one is network. When we say network, right, a network is how computers talk to each other's computers, right, from one computers to another, from one computers to another. So let's take for example, you are using a phone, or you want to connect to, you know, a laptop, or you want, like, it is just how computer interacts with each other. So example of network, you can have example of like internet, we have local network, we have cloud network. These are some of the example of network we have. So let me give you like an illustration so you understand. So take for example, a network is like a road. You understand? A network is like a road, right? And then servers and computers, right? Servers and computers, they are like cars that walk on the road. You understand? A network is like a road, like a well paved road. And then servers and computers, they are, you know, like cars that walk on the road. So if the road is not good, right? If the road is not good, a road which is the network, if it is not good, you see that cars and computer will be having, cars which are the computers will be having problems, will be having serious problems passing through the road, right? So for for the cars to actually pass through the road, right? For the cars to pass through the road must be very, very, must be very good, so that the cars will pass through the road. So the road in this sense is the network. So um that's it. The next one, the next one is virtual machine. A virtual machine. So a virtual machine, after very soon we are going to interact with this practically. So I'll be demonstrating some things in the next class, so that as I'm doing it, you will understand what I'm explaining. All right. So a virtual machine is like a fake computer, you know, that is running inside a real computer, right? So let me give an illustration. So The illustration I can give here is, okay, let's take for example, we have a building, right? A like a building, a tall building that has, that have many apartments, a building that have many apartments. For example, a building can have like 10 apartments, can have 15 apartments inside that building. So each apartment is like a house, you know, each apartment is like a house. So one of the apartments there, take for example, you are the owner of that building. Let's just take for example, you are the owner of that building and you have like 15 apartments inside that building. So I know that every apartment is like a house, right? You have your couch, you have your sitting room, you have a living room, you have your bedroom, you have toilet, you have the restroom and others, right? So every apartment have these things. So you now want to like use one of the apartments, you know, you want to use just one of the apartments to like maybe do photo shoots, or you just want to experiment, do some things in one apartment so that it will not affect other apartments. So you now set aside one apartment, you know, you now set aside one apartment in that building so that it will not affect other apartments. So you setting out that apartment, right? You have to like, you know, change the room to whatever you want, right? Either you want to take pictures in the room, or you want to customize it to be a gaming room, or whichever, right? So that room will not be able to affect the other apartments and the building as a whole. So I know that once you are done, right, you can change it back to whatever you want, right? So a virtual machine is like a fake computer, you understand, that runs inside the real computer. So if you're having a laptop, right, if you're having a laptop, you can use virtual machine to do some of the tasks, to just check or test it and check if it's going to work in real life. You understand? So that is that. So if once we start on virtual machine, I will explain better on it. So moving up, the next one is container. A container is like, a container is a lightweight. When we say container, it is a lightweight way of what? Of packaging and applications with everything inside it. It is a way of packaging application with everything inside it. The best illustration I can give to this is, take for example, you are a student. Take for example, you are a student, and then as you are going to school, your mom or your dad package the food, package you know the food for you in food flask. Now inside that food flask, you know that there are some different parts, there are some different compartments inside the food flask, right? There's a place where you put your rice, your main food. There's a place where you put your snacks. There's a place where you put your meats. There's a place where you put your stew or soup, whichever. There's a place where you put your snack, but it is inside, everything is inside a flask. You understand? Everything is inside a flask. So a container is a way to package the application. We have different compartments of applications as well. As we have the back end, the front end, we have different compartments in it. So it all package everything together as one. So in that food flask now, the food flask is the application itself. The food flask is the application itself. So, and if you're having food flask, you have different parts. Parts where you put your rice, a part where you put your stew, a part where you put your meat, a part where you put your snacks, a part where you put, your biscuits, whichever. So, but at the end of the day, if your dad will give you, a dad will give you, or your mom, if your mom will give you, your mom will give you a whole or full food flask. So you are going to carry everything at once, like everything will be packaged inside one food flask. So that is a container. All right. The next one is deployment. Now, deployment means there we go. Oh, I don't know why this thing. Just a minute. Let me reactivate it so that it will be easy. All right. All right. So deployment. Now, deployment means putting your application on a server so that users can access it. That is what deployment means. It means putting your application on a server so that users can access it. Before you put your application on a server, right? It is before you put your application on the server, you actually have to test it first. It will pass through the testing stage where you test every functionalities. You are the only one doing it. You are the only one working on it. Nobody's testing it for you. Nobody's accessing it except you and your team members, right? But once you put it on the server straight up, then users can be able to access it. Different users from different country, from different region can be able to access it. So that is what deployment means. So for example now, when you're writing code, when you are writing the code, sorry, when you are writing the code is, let's take it as cooking. Mhm. Let's take it as cooking. So cooking is when you're writing the code, and then deployment is serving the food to customers. You understand? Take for example, you are a chef, or let me say a cook. You understand? Working in a restaurant. So you have to cook first, right? You have to cook the food first before you now serve it to you know to different people. You understand? So cooking that food is writing the process of writing the code where the team communicates, where they collaborate and do other things. Then deploying the food is serving the food to different customers. So I hope you understand that. All right. So the next one is version control. Now, when we say version control, right? Version control keeps track of what? Of changes made in the code, right? It keeps track of changes that are made in the code. In a team, you'll be having different team members. We have the full stack guys, we have the back end guys, we have the front end guys, we have the back end guys, we have like different people, right? Where they are working on different features in the application. You understand? So they will have to, version control helps us to track the changes that they have made. It is like more like Google Docs history, So you can go back if you want something, if something breaks, you can actually go back to it. So it controls each version. I know we are still kind of confused as to what this version control means, but each and every one of these words, once we go deep down, once I start explaining, we will understand them like properly. All right. So the next one is CI. We call it CI, that's continuous integration. So when we say continuous integration, right? Continuous integration means, CI means developers regularly add their code to to a shared place, and then the system automatically checks it. You understand? That is what CI means. So let me give you an illustration for it. So you can imagine you are a student, right? And then the teacher gives you assignments. The teacher gives you all assignments in a group. You understand? The teacher gives you all assignments in the class, sorry. So instead of and the teacher told you guys that you guys will submit in the next 5 days. The assignment given to you. You submit in the next 5 days. But he has given you the option that you can, if you are done even before that day, you can decide to submit. You understand? So instead of you all submitting everything at once in 5 days, right? If you submit everything at once in the 5 days, it will be too cumbersome, it will be too much for the teacher to check. You understand? So you all now, you guys are now submitting one after the other. one after the other. So you are submitting little by little. So this will give the teacher time to check each and every one. So as A is submitting, the teacher will check, mark it, check, okay, this is good, this is good. As B is submitting, the teacher will check it, mark it. You know, it's not that you all are submitting everything one at once. You are submitting, maybe someone will submit the very first day, another person will submit the second day, another person will submit third day. So that is what CI does. CI prevents any last minute disaster, right? So the next one is CD. They actually will I say they are used the same way. You understand? We have CI/CD, that's continuous delivery or continuous deployment. You can say continuous delivery and continuous deployment as well. So the CD automatically, CD means automatically sending the application to the server after it passes the test. You understand? So let me give you an illustration. For example, we have the CI is like you are checking the food, CI is checking the food, like checking the ingredients, like, okay, this is good, and the ingredient is good, the water you added is good, and all these things, right? Then CD is serving that food to customers. You understand? CD is serving the food to customers. So continuous delivery, continuous deployment. So it automatically means sending applications, to the server after it passes the test. All right. So as you are moving on, you get to know more about some of these words. All right. So next one we have repo. Next one we have repository, but it's called repo. You know in in like among within the team you can call it repo, or if you want you can call it repository. So the illustration to give here is okay, a repo is where code is stored. You understand? A repo is where code is stored. For example, let me just give you an illustration. Okay, uh, let me think of one. Okay, a repo is like a folder. It's like a folder on the internet. In your laptop, you can have a folder. In your phone, you can have a folder that stores files, that stores different things. You know that whenever you're looking for these things, right, you will go to the folder and then check those things. But what if the laptop you are using to check that file, or what if the phone you are using to check that file in the folder is not good again? What if it gets spoiled? Then what will happen? What if the hard drive is not good again, or something happened to the phone and then it's not turning on again? It's Let's take for example, it's just got destroyed totally. Then how will you be able to get the file? How will you be able to get that important file? You understand? So another way to do it is just having a repo. You understand? It's a place where it is more like a folder where on the internet. It is a folder on the internet where you store files. Where you store your files, other other things. So if you are creating an app, right, you must actually have a repo where you store those things, where you store the code, so that if anything happens to your laptop or your phone or whichever thing you are using, the file will still be stored on the internet. And we have different version control system platforms, right? That that gives this. For example, we have the GitHub, we have the GitLab, right? These are just the popular ones, right? So let's continue. The next one is environment. Environment. When we say environment, right? Environment is where an app runs, right? It is where an app runs. Just give me a minute. All right. Environment is where an app run. So it is where an app runs. So for example, an environment can be more like, before, let me explain to you, before apps before app comes to life, right, it passes through different environments. It passes through different, environments. We have environments like development environment, we have the staging environment, we have testing environment, we have production environment. You understand? So these are some of the environments. And in the development environments, right, that is the environment where they are just starting to write the code, their development little by little, they're ensuring that they don't make mistakes, you know. And then once you get to more like the staging environment, this is, where they check the things they've done, they can push it to like testing environment where they test it, where they check it properly that okay, we are testing what we have built, we see that okay, it's running properly. And then once they can verify that yes, this is running properly, then they can push it to production environment. So production environment is when the application is now live, that people can use it everywhere. So it is more like a practice field. You understand? Environment is more like a practice field, you know, before the match date. For example, if you are a footballer, if you play ball, if you are having a match or a competition, you guys, you have to practice, you have to, practice properly before the match day. You have to draw your tactics and do all those things right. So environment is like the practice field, you know, the practice field where you practice and do all your things right. And then we have the match day stadium as well. You understand? So these are just the different environments. So we can call the production environment, like for example, let's say production environment and staging environment. Let me use this two environment because these are types of environments. We have the staging, the production environment, and then the staging environment. So the staging environment is more like the practice field where you guys are practice a day before the final match or 2 days before the final match, the final practice you guys made. That's it. And then the production environment, right? It is the main day, the stadium, it all happened, like where the final match is being played. That is the environment. So environment is more like the practice field versus the match day, stadium, and all right. So we have production. Next one is production. Production is like a live stream, you know, I mean, sorry, I said live stream. All right, so production is like a live system users use you I mean a live system users interact with. You understand? Like the real the real match day. You understand? If you're having a match like in the finals, the people that will come out, let's take for example, if you are practicing, nobody sees when you rehearse, nobody sees when you, for example, you are practicing a choreography or you are going for a music competition, nobody sees you when you are rehearsing. You understand? Or if you are if you are going to do your performance, or if you are going to present whatever you have on that final day of the competition, you see that a whole lot of crowd will be there. If you are going to play the final match, you see that a whole lot of people will be in the stadium. You understand? So that is production. Like the whole thing is live. Everybody can see it. That everybody can see how you are doing it. So the production is more like a real shop. You understand? A real match day, a real uh, performance. That is live. That users can see that okay, you are the one doing this. It's not you rehearsing again, right? Why staging, right? Why staging is a copy of production used for final testing. You understand? As I explained before, when you are developing an application or a stuff or a software, it passes through different stage development, from development to staging, to testing to staging and all these things, right? So staging is a copy of the production before before the software is being pushed to the production environment. It must pass through the staging environment. So this is where they check it, the final testing before it is now being pushed to life. Before you do your rehearsal, before you do your final performance, before you go for your um before you go for your, will I say, music competition, the final music competition, right? The last day you are rehearsing, or the last time you are rehearsing before you go live, that is staging. Because that is the final. You must make sure that you are not making mistakes. You must make sure that you are not doing anything error, because anything you do at that particular stage, that is what you do live, in the live stage, right? So staging is a copy of the production used for final testing. And um okay, let's move forward. All right, so next one we have automation. Automation is like making tasks run automatically without human effort. I think this should not be a big word for us, right? You know, like um, making tasks run automatically without human effort. For example, if you are sleeping, if you are sleeping, you know, if you know you are a very deep sleeper, like you sleep very, very deep, for example, and you know that you have to wake up by 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. and prepare yourself for work. You understand? But most times you sleep past the time you're supposed to wake up. You wake up very, very late. Sorry. Most times you wake up past the time you're supposed to wake up. So you wake up very, very, very late. What will you do in that sense, in that situation? What you do is you get your phone, right? And then you set the alarm on your phone, or if you have any alarm clock, you set it that once it gets to this time, ring, so that I will wake up. And that is what will happen. So once you set the time, it's your phone or the alarm clock will wait till the time you instructed it to actually ring. So at that particular time, the alarm clock or your phone will ring in the time you have set it to be to actually to ring. So that is automation. When you set a task or when you run a task without human effort, it is not like maybe you are waking up, you wake up and then you it's not that you wake up and then you rang the alarm clock or your phone yourself. You already set it to this time so that you wake up. All right, so the next one is scaling or scale. For example, when we say scaling or scale, scaling means adjustments. It means adjusting resources to handle fewer or more users. You understand? Fewer or more users. For example, um, uh, let me give an example. Scaling. What example can I give? Okay, now you are having a restaurant. You are a boss, the boss that you are, right? You're having a restaurant, and then in the restaurant, there are four chairs in that restaurant. And in that restaurant, with four chairs, four tables, right? Four tables and chairs, you know, and then you have two workers that are serving customers in that restaurant. But during the sales, right? During the time you are doing all this your business, you begin to have more customers people begin to love your services, and then they begin to troop in. You know that you have 4 chairs already. You understand? So now the people that are coming in, like let's take for example, we have like 20 people coming in, 50 people coming in. You know they can't sit on 4 chairs, you can't sit on 4 tables. What it will require you to do is you have to adjust it to what they want. You understand? So what you will do is you get more chairs, you get more table, and you know that those 2 workers you employed will not be able to serve those 50 customers you have now. So what you do is you can get 4 more workers or 5 more workers addition to the 2 workers you have, so that they can be able to serve the people well. That is scaling, you know, that is scaling. So when you adjust things to handle more users properly, you understand? And if in that building now, the building cannot contain the 50 customers you have now, what you do is you have to expand the building so that it will be able to contain the 50 customers you have, right? So that's the scaling. All right. So the next one is scaling up. We're almost done. The next one is scale up, right? Or you can say upscale. Now, scale up means to increase the power of a server. You understand? To increase the power of a server. Like the example I gave you, in this scaling, you know, where you increase the numbers of chairs you have, you increase the number of table you have, you increase the number of workers you are working, that are working for you, you get like 5 more workers to it. You expand the place you are you are using for your business, so that it can actually contain more customers, like those 50 customers, because there's every probability that they will still increase. So you have to expand it so that you contain them properly. So that is, it means scaling up, right? Or it is more like, if you have a generator, let me give you another illustration. You have a generator that is small and it cannot power your home very well. It cannot power your house very, very well. And you have bigger machines, your fridge, your televisions, and all these things that consumes electricity. What you have to do is you get a bigger one, that can be able to power the whole house properly without no issue. So that is it. So scaling down, scaling down, scaling down, scaling down, scaling down, scaling down. Scaling down means reducing resources when demand is low. May your demand never be low in Jesus' name. Ah, Scaling down means reducing resources when the demand is low. Hmm. All right. Now let's take for example, in the business you are. Just listen to this story now. I'll be giving you stories. In the business you are running. Let's take for example now, one of your worker, um now impregnated. Oh my god. So one of your worker now impregnated, let me see if this okay. All right. So one of the worker now impregnated a customer. Hey! And then it is against the the policy, or maybe something happened. Something just happened. It happens naturally. Maybe something happens, and then customers begin to reduce, they begin to reduce, they begin to reduce, they begin to reduce in your business. Initially you have expanded the size of your business. You bought more chairs, you bought more table, you employed more workers, and you've expanded the size of the business so that it can contain uh, the 50 workers. Let's take for example now, you now have like 40 workers, 40 customers. Let's take for example now, you now have 40 customers not coming to your business again. 40 customers don't want to patronize you again, like they've gone, right? So in that sense, you see that the chairs you have, the chairs, the chairs you bought, all the tables you bought, right? Nobody will be sitting there. They'll be wasting. It will be wasted because the customers that are patronizing you, the 50 customers that were patronizing you before, 40 of them left, so you have only 10. And then you employed seven workers in total. Remember you had two before, and then now you now have to employ five, making seven. So now that 40 customers left, what you have to do, you have to downscale it. You understand? You have to downscale it. So the chairs you bought, the table you bought, you have to reduce it to the size of the customer you have. The size you've expanded, right? You have to reduce it to the size, to the customer you have. The workers that are working for you, right? Imagine having seven workers. Ah, imagine having seven workers to work for just 10 customers, to serve just 10 customers. That's absurd. So what you have to do is just you can sack like four of them or five of them, right? So you are downscaling it. So it happens, right? So it means that the resources means, downscale means reducing the resources when the demand is low. It happens in applications very, very, very well. All right. So that is that. All right. The next one is terminal. Terminal is quite simple, right? You'll be using it like very, very well. Terminal is where you type commands instead of clicking. You know, terminal is where you type command instead of clicking. So, for example, you know, Linux, right? You use terminal. You understand? So you can type the command instead of clicking it. So let me just give you an instance so that it will be more easy. So you get what I'm saying? All right. So now, for example, I want to get to this folder here. I want to get to this folder, so I'm clicking this. What I will do is I will click this folder, it will open, and we have introduction, day 4, day 3, day 2, day 1. You understand? So in the terminal as well, I can go through terminal. You understand? So let me show you. So we have CD desktop. Now look at it. Now I have come to this particular place. Where I am in my terminal is this place now. Presently, where I am in the terminal is this place. Let me show you so that you see. ls. So you see, these are folders and these are software. These blue words, they are folders. These light green words, right, they are software, and then this is more like a file, right? So now we have DevOps from 0 to hero. So what I did initially was, from the UI, I clicked from the UI, right? Let me show you. What I did was I clicked this, and then it showed this. So from the terminal, I can also go from this. So let me just copy it. I will cd to it, and then it goes inside. So cd, oh sorry, cd dev 0 to hero. See, so we are now inside it. So we have introduction, day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. The same thing here. Introduction, day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. So let's take, for example, I want to go to introduction also, right? So I can cd introduction, and then we have it here, introduction, ls. You see, DevOps 0 to hero, PDF, and then here as well, if I click it, we have DevOps 0 to hero PDF. So this is the terminal. All this interface here, what you are seeing here is the terminal that we use to type the commands instead of just clicking through the what's it called, the UI, so that you can be able to perform tasks easily, very very easy. So take for example, I want to create a file. Let me just say I want to create a folder. Let me say I want to create a folder. Let me say I want to create a folder in this part here, where they have, okay, let me just create the file folder. So to create the file folder, create it here. So we have day 5. So to make the directory, now you see that automatically when we come here, see the 5 is already showing. Initially we didn't have the 5 here, now it's showing the 5. So whatever you can do on the UI, you can also do it from the terminal. Let's just clear this. So that is it. So this brings us to the end of this section, and I am going to add every note I've written to the description. And please, I beseech you, I beg you in God's name, I beg, let me use my local dialect, I beg, you can support me by subscribing, by liking this video, and then you send it to those that need it. Trust me, like I said, I will teach you like a day-old baby. You can trust me on that. Like, I know the concept, I know everything in DevOps, and it is easy for me, right? So, and for someone like me, right, I will always teach you properly, so that you will not miss out anything in DevOps. This is what most people don't really give free. Most people don't give it free, but personally, I felt it is really really good. I mean, everything we have today, every knowledge we have today, we get it from somewhere. Every information we have today, every knowledge, every single thing we have today, we get it. I mean, we got it from somewhere. So thank you for supporting me, and God bless. Thank you. All right.